Do you find yourself having a collection of your songs that you've written and worked on, pieced together that are ready to go, and you're ready to put them in a collection, either an EP or a full album, and get them out to the world? Or maybe you're an experienced musician who has done a couple of albums, maybe done an EP or two, but the process seems to be very daunting, and you always find yourself taking steps back, trying to figure out ways to fix things, or running through your resources too quickly. Well, if either of these describe where you're at, maybe it's time we put out a little guide, a little how to on how to put out an album or EP as efficient as possible that'll get you to the point quickly, efficiently, and cost effectively. Maybe it's time we had to think about that. Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode. So glad you're here. We have a wonderful episode for today, especially for anybody that is thinking about releasing a collection of their music as an EP or a full album. We have gone to the stakes and to the lengths, of creating a nice visual walkthrough that'll show you all the steps in order to go through, which I find very helpful. I wish I'd had many years ago. We also have down below linked everything for free. Of course, it's on our Patreon. Doesn't cost you a thing. You don't have to sign up for anything. Just go grab it. It's free. Use it. It's there for you. I promise this will help you out. Along with the visual aid that we put together, the walkthrough guide, we also put a written walkthrough guide that will also list all the steps. I believe there's 9 steps on there. It just lists out what to do and all the things that are included in that. If you're more of a learner that has to, read through things, or there's one for visual learners, or myself, I was always best if I could see a visual and read something with it. Whatever works best for you, we have it here for you. We have the resources. So this is a fantastic tool. We're going to talk about it. We're going to walk through it today. If before we get into the first steps and going through this thing, just want to take a second to say thank you so much to everybody who has been watching the videos, who's been following us on Instagram, watching us on Facebook, who have been subscribing. You guys are absolutely killing it. Could not thank you enough. This one's to you. Cheers. Thank you so much. And if you haven't yet, please take a second, subscribe, like the video, anything that'll help us grow this community and move forward. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's get right into it. Step 1 on this guide is planning, and that should be a no-brainer, but this is one of the most important steps that you really got to dig deep into, and the more time you invest in this stage, the easier every step gets down the road from here. I promise you will have, if you just invest a little more time into this step here, to make sure that all your bases are covered, that you know everything that's going on, that you have every step mapped out on your roadmap of what needs to be done. You will, again, as we stated in the opener, use less time, which is very important. You will use less money, which is very important when it comes to being a do-it-yourself musician or somebody releasing your own music. And, so many other resources that are going to be saved if you just take the time to plan. So when you're planning, the first thing to set down into stone, into writing, put it on paper, write it onto a text, put it somewhere where you're going to see it, is put down the dates of when you're going to release this EP or this album. That's the most important thing you need to have, bar none. If you are not working against some sort of time schedule or having some sort of set dates to achieve goals, then you have nothing. You haven't set the benchmark of where you're trying to get. You haven't done the work needed to get yourself to where you're going to understand what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, when it needs to be done. And you won't know when you've achieved it, because if it just happens when it happens, it could take you years. It does happen to many musicians. I used to be the exact same way, where I'll put it out when it's ready. I'll take my time. And sometimes there's a lot of us with that pressure. If giving yourself that deadline makes you work better, I have always been this way myself. I know there's many musicians in this exact same boat, where you tell yourself, I'm gonna do this. I want it done by this, but I don't start till the last minute. I was the same way in grade school, in high school, in college. I'm the same thing with everything in life as an adult. I don't do it till I have to do it, till it's the moment before, till it's the night before, till it's time to cram for that exam. It doesn't matter. Like, having that date makes that fire real and starts to put it to your feet, so you really start moving and get things done. So having dates is important. What dates? It's mostly, mostly you want to have that end date of I want it released by this time. And then once you set that date in stone of I know I want it out on this date, or this week in the year, you can start to back build the calendar as to how it should fill in, start set extra dates from there of I need to have production by this time, so on and so forth. I need to have distribution taken care of by this point. I need to have all the steps we'll go through. You'll be able to fill in the dates for those. But having that main date is the most important thing. The other things to get together and planning are just, it's really nice to know what resources you do have. So understanding what your budget is, how much money you're going to have to put out this release to, effectively promote it and do all the things that are going to need to go into the production, all the things you're going to have. Knowing what budget you have is going to make a huge difference. So that should be taken care of course. And anything that would involve time management of other people. If you're going to involve collaborations with other people, get those times and dates set and ready to go. If you're going to work with musicians and your band and everything, make sure that you have that time cleared out with them. Know that this is the date and we're going to be working towards this, and have those set in stone. Have anybody else is going to be involved, but start to get those dates set so that they can also start making the same thing, having those plans ready, having that knowledge that this is coming up. But again, that's the first step. Make sure all the planning's taken care of. It's one of the most important things going forward. The next step on the visual walkthrough and the worded guide that we've given you there, it's called Song Skeletons. And this part's really important. So, of course, part of music is that you've went through the time, you've got the outlines of these songs, you've got chord structures, you've got, how the song's going to feel, you have tempo, you have all these things, you have lyrics, you've got bits and pieces of songs all over the place. And you feel like you're ready to sit down and get this done, get it recorded, and do all those steps. But this is the time, after you get the planning done, to work on the skeletons of your song and get them written down somewhere. It's very important that you write down the song, the chord structures, the key of the song, the lyrics to the song, the structure of the song. Have them all written and ready to go. And then you can rehearse using this before you go into the studio, before you take the time to record these. Use these skeletons just to make sure that you have everything set in stone. If you have melodies, have them recorded on your phone or somewhere. If you have a DAW, record it into your DAW. Record the melodies. If you have counter melodies, if you have harmonies, just make sure you have a version of them all recorded and put aside, so that when it comes time to, when you step into the studio, when you press record, you know exactly where to reach for your resources, and you can get that done, knocked out as soon as possible, on to the next one. Again, this is about managing your resources, your time, and your money. And when it comes to the next step, this is how you're going to, really give yourself a heads up and really advocate for yourself in the future by doing this work right here. Very important. And this is one of those ones that, as I was saying in the intro, that it feels like sometimes, even if you've done this and you put out albums, I find myself and many artists that I produce for or do recordings for in my studio, they'll have to go back and backtrack because of this step. I had most of the song. I need to finish the bridge. I need to spend more time here working out the lyrics. That costs them time. That costs them money because they didn't come in with the skeletons of those songs defined and ready to go. Really straightforward, but super important. On to step 3. We're going right down this roadmap. We're getting things done. It's great. Step 3, producing, mixing, mastering. So this is that point where, first and foremost, you can decide if you are going to be producing this yourself, just you or either your bandmates or anybody else involved in your music directly. Are you going to bring in an outside producer, or are you going to hire a studio and use that mixing engineer, mastering engineer, recording engineer as your producer? All these things are very common. Just depends on what you want to do. Having outside voices is such a godsend. It's so useful. I highly recommend it. But for your first time, it's not exactly necessary. If you're doing it yourself and this is your first time, having outside influence is not too important because you're going to be working through the process. You're going to be learning. So that's just fine. Either way, just need to define if you're going to do that. And now's the time to hire out that studio, book out the time, make sure you have everything, all the rates and all those things set in stone of what's this going to cost me? How much time do I need to book out? All of those things. What's the mixing going to cost me? What all those kind of things. Like same with the mastering. Do not skip the mastering step. We will link right here to the importance of mastering. We had a great episode on that very recently, mastering demystified. If you don't understand why that's so important, that's the video or podcast to go watch. It's right there for you. The other thing, of course, that I really recommend here when we're talking about producing, mixing, mastering, it'd be nice for you to have your references here too. If you want the album or EP to sound a certain way, if you have someone you really look up to, some music you really aspire to be like, or you really love, this is the time to use those references. Have MP3 files ready to go to give to your mixing engineer, your recording engineer, your mastering engineer, that they can reference and use. And that's really important here. So now we've gone through the planning stage. We had all the songs, we got them together, made sure we had all the parts written down, recorded as best we could. Song skeletons were taken care of. We took care of the producing, mixing, and mastering. The songs have been recorded at this point and produced and mastered and mixed to the way we want them. Now's the time to nail down the deets, as it says on the walkthrough, or get the details all ready to go. So now that you have all the recordings done, this is the time where you get to make sure all the track names are appropriate and to the level that you want them to be. As artistically, are they going to be intriguing? Are they just going to say exactly what the song is? Is the song just the name of the chorus? It doesn't matter what it is. They all work effectively, but just make sure the track names are taken care of at this point. At this point, it's time to name your EP or your album, give it its official title. It's one of the funnest parts and most rewarding parts. You probably already knew what it was going into the step, but it needs to be finalized at this point. And then you need to come up with a list of the songs as they need to go in order. So you need to come with the order of the songs as they're going to be played through the album. This is less important today. It used to be its own art form, in the days before streaming took over. It was like where the track sat was important. The first song had to bring them in. The third or fourth song was going to be usually one of your first singles. Fifth song had to be usually your second single and a huge uplift. You had to have a ballad in there and at two or three. There was a whole art form to this. Not so much anymore, but just make sure that it makes sense to you. And that's how if a listener sits down and either buys your album at one of your shows or is streaming it for the first time, that it's in the order that means the most to you and you think it should be presented to them as the art, as the work that you've done. Other things to nail down right now: get your cover art done. You should be releasing singles, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. Any ones that you choose that you're going to do as singles, if not all of them, make sure there's separate artwork for each of those. Get that nailed down now. And those are really the most important things to have ready. I mean, this is just the things that get if there's any other details you need to get out, this is also a great time. Make sure that you've written down all the names of anybody involved in the recording, making, writing, any of those, so that you can credit them later where it's important, either in liner notes or online, wherever you choose to give them credit, which you should. Make sure that you're doing that. And then this is where you want to write down that information, sure that you can just grab it anytime. I usually put it on a folder on my computer where I can just grab it as needed. It comes in very useful. So step 4, we've nailed down the details. We're making real headway here. This is where a lot of people start to feel like they're done. And according to our walkthrough, that was step 4. We have 5 more steps to go. We're not even halfway through. So that's why this is important. That's why this is so useful. And I hope you take advantage of this. But let's go on to step 5. Step 5 is your release strategy. So now we've got everything in order. You've got all the information. Now it's time to develop your strategy around what you're going to do with this album. Now, we have an entire video dedicated to just this. Super useful of how you should release your music, how to get the most out of this opportunity as you should see it, to get content for the whole year, to be engaging for your fans, how to build your fan base, how to draw in new people, all those things. That we'll link that right now. But this is your opportunity to make sure that you're taking care of you're investing a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of everything of your effort and your creativity into this. Milk it for all it's worth. This is where you get the most bang for your buck right here. So you develop your release strategy, choose when you're going to release your songs, what order, what's going to come out first, how you're going to do the releases. So you choose your first song before the album ever comes out or the EP ever comes out. You release the song. Are you going to release just the music first? Are you going to release with a video? Is it going to be a lyric video? Are you going to make an actual music video of you doing something with the music, either playing live, playing to the music, some kind of artistic choice, telling a story? I usually recommend, if you watch that video, you use two different, a lyric video and a music video. But what comes out first, what order, and then how that's going to pertain to the rest of the album. I would say whatever you choose for that first one, do it for the rest of them. Release the music and the lyric video on the same day. If that's what you did for the first one, do it for the rest of them. If that makes sense, just follow that template you've already built for yourself. And that way your fans and people that are getting behind you in your music and your career know what to expect, and you can go from there. Other things to get in order is, of course, promotional material, anything like that. Just get all those things that you're going to be using for your promotion. Like, again, artwork, get different versions of the artwork, get JPEGs, get PNGs. These are just different file types, but you're going to need them for different reasons. You're going to need different sizes. You're going to need different resolutions. Just do a quick Google search. It'll tell you exactly what you need for what size the cover art needs to be, what it needs to be for everything involved. So just do that there. This is the time for that. So that was step 5. Excuse me. Step 6, we're going to talk about distribution. And this is just where you get your everything in order that it's ready to be released in the world. So you've already got your dates set. You've got all the promotional stuff done. You can even, at this point, if you've got all the dates ready for all your singles released, every date that's ready to go and when you need this stuff to be out there. This is the time that you get your music uploaded to whatever distribution you can use. I always highly recommend DistroKid, but there's a lot of there's TuneCore. There's many, many other versions of this. CD Baby. Doesn't really matter. Just the one that works for you. Get your files uploaded. Set your dates when you want those released so that they don't come out until that date. Double, triple check these. I've seen people mess them up many times, so don't be that person. Double check your dates, and just, again, if you have a release coming out and you set it for this, double check it the date or the week before it's supposed to come out. Just make sure. But this is when you get everything uploaded, ready to go with your artwork, with everything that you need. I highly recommend DistroKid. Lets you take the time to recognize everybody that was involved. You can credit the other musicians, the other songwriters. You can credit the engineers involved. You can credit anybody that touched anything on this work. I highly recommend doing that. It makes them feel special if they ever go back and check on the work that they did with you. And it lets anybody that hears your music and says, I want to sound like this. How do I do it? They can go back and check the references for that. So that's fantastic for that. Beyond that, just have those dates set. And I recommend having a little folder on whatever your main computer is for each date, for each release, and just have those ready to go so that you can, as it comes up to the dates and you're going to start doing a couple of the next steps, you're going to have everything ready to go. So we've set the dates. We've got all the music is uploaded, ready to go. All the masters went where they needed to go. And it's ready to go to the world on the dates that we've chosen. Step 7, you've got dates, you've got everything uploaded, you have versions of the songs. Now it's time to create your press kit. Again, super important, so important that we actually made a video just on this topic, creating your own first press kit, linked right here. Obviously, we're going to put it up there. We'll have it down below. You can go check that out. Very helpful. But this is the time that you need to get a couple things that are very important that get looked over. Get them done now. So when you're creating your press kit, you need to get all your promotion stuff together. Again, the artwork and all the people involved, all those things are a part of that. You need to start looking up outlets you can reach out to, either blogs in your area or in your genre, newspapers, any kind of written word, or anybody that does kind of e-zines or articles for local music stuff, this is the time to reach out to them and do all this stuff. And but as you're doing this, as you're getting things ready, you need to form a narrative. This is the time that you need to be working on getting your story, your overarching story of what is this album? Why did I create this album? What does it represent? What does it capture in time for me as an artist, or us as a group? What story is it telling? How are you selling this to the public? And there's some great videos on that. Look up if you're having a hard time creating an overarching narrative of what this album, what this release means, and how to get the most out of it. Do a little bit of research. It goes a long ways. But at this point, just trust your instincts. Just be honest. This is why I wrote it. This is what it's about. This is how I'm hoping people will take it, how the listener will hear it. You can share all those kind of things. You can share how it was created, the steps you went through, any hiccups you had, any wins, or all those kind of things you can put in here. Share with those people. And of course, make sure if you're sending these out, just even if, for example, if it's the first single you're putting out there, share a MP3 link. You can go on SoundCloud and make a private link, and you can share that for them to make sure they can hear it. Is the most important thing. Send them a copy of the song as the MP3. It doesn't really matter. The music's coming out. Just make the caveat, obviously, do not release this music for your ears only. Whatever you have to do, your ears only. But make sure they have a copy of the song to hear, because then they become invested in what you're doing. They're part of the process. They get to hear it before anybody else because they are special, and they're going to convey their thoughts to the rest of the world, to the rest of the community around you. Very, very useful. Make sure you're using that. And then the important thing that you're going to learn, if this is your first time, or if you're at the first time you're using a strategy for this, you're going to start to pick out how much time you need to give yourself for these promotions. How many weeks in advance do I need to be getting these things out? How much time do I need to build into this to make sure that everything's getting where it needs to go and everybody's getting what they need? All those things. You'll get better and better at it, but just let yourself learn and grow. You'll figure it out. Moving on to step number 8, we're almost done. And of course, this is promoting, and I know the last one sounded like it's the same thing, so they're kind of on the same page, but they're not. There's 2 separate steps for a reason, but they use the same information. That's why this is so useful to do at the same time. Now, promoting is when you personally, you as a group, or you as an individual artist, start putting hints that something big's coming out. You do the hinting, you do the something big's coming. You start dropping dates, or just, pictures of a date. And then you start putting out little hints. You can put out little clips of the song or clips of the videos you've been working on, just hinting at something's coming. Start doing your promotion. Start getting out there and getting engagement on all your platforms that you have access to. A great resource for this, of course, again, e-zines and local writers is fantastic. This one obviously is a little biased, but I reach out to local podcasts, local video creators, anybody doing anything with music, and see if you can't be on their podcast and talk about your upcoming releases. Any radio stations, they're still relevant. They're out there. They're still doing interviews with local artists and people doing big things. Reach out to them. This is the time to really get out there and push. How much work you put into these is how successful your release, your album is going to be. This is going to dictate that. And of course, we do have another thing that we'll share right here. We have a video that is all about how to do self-promotion, DIY strategies for self-promotion. We'll link that right here. Super useful. If you have any questions on what to do, how to do it, anything, if your mind drew a blank when I said promotion, there's a video for you. We have the resources for you. Go use them. After you finish this, after you download what you need to walk you through this, go watch that video. It'll tell you exactly how to do that. We've reached step 9, and we've reached the end of our great diagram here that's walked us through. We've done all the things, everything set in motion. You've done everything you can to this point to get the best music out there, to get it recorded, to get everything done. All those things are taken care of. So the last step in here, step 9, is live performance. Now, There's a caveat to this. Live performance is all about, there's some music out there that maybe you're not going to perform live, but you should find a way to do a version of whatever song you're doing, even if you're an EDM artist, if you're a hip hop artist, all those things. Find a way to do some live shows. This is the best way to reap what you rewarded. You should have at this time, if you did your steps with distribution. Obviously, we talked about getting the streaming stuff all taken care of with the distribution, but another step during that we didn't touch upon when it comes to live performances is you should have the physical media here as well. So you should make some CDs. Go to dollarduplication.com. I'll link that below. I tell all my artists about this. Use it myself. It's like the cheapest you can do is like $60 for 100 CDs. Get them. Make sure you have them for your live performances, and you can sell them $10 a pop. Obviously, a huge return on your investment, your time. It's a great way to recoup some of the funds in your budget, but it's also the best way to start building a fan base and really getting hardcore fans that are behind you no matter what, because they were there. They have a version of your music. They can listen to it. You signed it if you took the time. And those live performances, getting out there and playing the music, even if at first you're playing to nobody, no crowd, just a couple people, just friends and family, and just let it grow naturally. It's going to take 10, 20 performances, but you're going to start getting this music out there, versions of it. Highly recommend, of course, doing recordings if you're doing live shows, using that to help promote. It cycles back into itself to get social media, to get more content, to bring more people in to listen. It just becomes that cycle, and as you're just doing what you love and just playing the music that you created and sharing with the world, it becomes this machine that takes care of itself because you did all the work. You followed the steps, and that's really the biggest thing you can do. The live performance is the end thing because it's the most important thing. It's how you actually grow your career. You did all the steps, but if you did 1 through 8 and just never did a live performance, I guarantee you're going to fall flat in your face and nothing will become of your career. You won't move forward because number 9 is the most important. If you aren't out there playing the live music, shaking hands, meeting other people, growing as a musician and artist, then none of this matters. So that's it. A free, easy to use, super useful diagram and walkthrough guide that I wish I had when I was younger. I hope it helps you. If this has helped you in any way or made your brain, spark ideas and get that brainstorm rolling, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, help us grow so we can do this for everybody else and help them grow as well. It really does help. I want to thank you guys so much. Of course, we've got another one coming out next week. Don't miss that. If you subscribe, you'll see it. So we'll see you on the next one, all right? Bye.